You're live, everyone.
Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hi there.
It's our first time using this new stuff. We just got it Monday.
Oh,
Yeah,
very fancy.
thank you. Dave and Liz did all this. You let me know when I can start, Dave. Take your time.
I'm just making sure that we do have a video, an image.
Ooh. Thank you.
All right, we're good to go.
Okay. All right, I'm going to call to order the June 16th, 2020 work session for the Tipp City Board of Education, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Dave, you want to start with attendance?
President Dunaway,
Yes.
Vice President Ball,
Here.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Here.
Mrs. Zakor,
Here.
Mr. Patrick.
Here.
Sorry for the order there. All present and accounted for, Madam President. We have a quorum this evening.
Great. So we're going to start with new business, and I believe is that either Dr. Kump or Mr. Verhoff?
That'd be myself.
Okay, great.
Okay. Item A, recommend approval of.
Nope. Yep, I'm sorry.
Very good.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
It's our first meeting since March. We're
All right. Item A, recommend approval of Carrie Robbins as a teacher's aide for the 2020 summer school staff. Staff will provide virtual intervention and ESY services.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
motion and seconded by Heatherly and Dahl. Any discussion?
This is just an additional student that has now been added to the list for the services for the summer, and we need the support person to assist with that.
Okay, great. Ready for a vote, Dave?
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
motion carries. Discussion items, Dr. Kump?
All right, first item is just the adjusted start date, and I'd like to talk with you a little bit about that. As we receive more information, and we don't have a finalized piece yet, for what the next school year is going to look like, we do know that there is a lot of planning and professional development, and that we want to prepare our staff for that. And we also want to be able to have families to be able to plan accordingly if there are needs for adjustment. There's going to be a need for additional professional development preparation. We have several scenarios of what next year may look like. But one thing for sure is if there is, and there seems to be a great need for the electronic component, that we want it to be stronger and even better than it was in the spring. So additional preparation for that. We also are looking to front load then 2 of the days that we had already planned for full day professional development. That was October the 23rd. If you look one year, that would have been a green day on your calendar. That was a handout I gave you. And also February the 12th. That if we move those forward and front load, that would cover both the 20th and the 21st. And then the thought is to take an additional 5 days. And the 5 days we have COVID-19 training that is a state requirement. And so we'll have time for that training. We'll also have this professional development for additional electronic and distance training. There'll be classroom setup based on some of the information we're receiving with the 6-foot distance between our students. If that does come to pass, that that's a requirement, then we will have some changes in our classroom setup that we'll have to do and look at how many students we'll be able to get in each classroom. We'll utilize those days for some screening because we know like kindergarten screening, things of that nature. that's going to have to be extended over multiple days because of the additional distancing and how that will be handled. And then our open houses and our orientations, we will have to handle those differently as well. And those will be probably extended, particularly those that are significant transition grade levels and or new students that then will have to really make adjustments because we're going to have to offer multiple stations so that we can reduce the number of people participating at any given time. So with that in mind, we look for an adjustment projected that I would like to have on that June 22nd meeting, if at all possible, so that we could get that narrowed down, plan accordingly, and also notify parents, but look at the start date for students to begin on August 31st. Now, with our hours as we have, we did look at, do we have to add days back on the calendar? And at this time, we do not. We have enough hours and we have an additional space of hours, over 100 hours additional that would help us, for snow days, climbing days, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So we're really in pretty good shape with that. I do think that given if it's an uncertain year and we would have a real spike with the virus, that probably the state would probably give a little bit of latitude. But it would be good not to count on that. And so I don't think we are not counting on that we are well within by having the additional 2 days that we move forward that were already embedded in the calendar, and then the 5 days that we would use. Your thoughts on that, or reservations? Any reservations about that?
Has the union agreed to this change? Since we don't have the other calendar in front of us, were we already planning on having our teachers come in as early as the?
Yeah, so this is the calendar. So this is the calendar that has been adopted. So we would have our teachers report for them. I mean, certainly we'll have communication with the union, and they know that there are anticipations of some things being different for next year. But truly, as far as their contractual days, that will not change, because when we, like the 23rd that we're moving forward, that was a teacher work day. It's just that our students were not present because we were having a professional development day. And so this does not change their contractual days.
Okay.
And Mrs. Hathaway, we did meet with TCA leadership back in, I think it was June 1st, and talked with them about this, and they were in full support of adjusting this to provide for those opportunities with professional development and classroom setup and screenings and things of that nature.
Thank you.
So during this 2 weeks, it would be the kindergarten screenings would be happening and all those other things, so that all students would return on the 31st, like kindergarten wouldn't have a second return day.
That is a piece that's still a little under discussion,
Okay.
because there is some benefit of having a little bit of a staggered start, just for the fact of you're able to give our kindergartners a lot of attention, and our first graders that were formerly kindergarten, and those first days for them to make sure they get in the right places and the connections. So that is a piece that we are still working through, whether we will even delay it a day or two, but they would have the capability of starting on the 31st. The one aspect of it is that our kindergarten teachers are going to be very involved in the screening, so they might actually need the day or two to get their things finalized, because they've been doing screening day after day in order to get that accomplished over this time frame.
And if you think about it, those kindergartners, which are now first graders, they haven't been in school for over 5 months.
Yes.
So it might be like a whole new, just going through all that process again. This would be the year that they would need maybe a little extra time to just get reacclimated to everything.
I think that's a very good point. I think that with them not being in the building.
Because normally it's 3 months, but it's been 5.5 since
When they left, they were kindergartners. They are coming back as first graders, but
They're kindergartners and a half.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really interesting point.
Because they've been
Maybe
out
all
of
the
building since
grades,
March 13th.
those lower grades,
Yeah.
might want an opportunity to kind of screen. Like first grade teachers maybe would want some screening days for their first graders coming back. What were you able to retain? Are those kindergartners,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do
I
know
think the
that we did do
staggered
a gap analysis about standards, and so we did that with our teachers before we departed, so we know what standards we really need to
Yeah.
hit right when we come back, because just, it wasn't quite as strong and it was different than what we've been able to do face to face.
And that would be part of this 2-week period too, is reviewing that gap analysis and looking, they were spending time looking at their own content during the last 2 weeks of May. Now they need to look at, okay, what did they do in kindergarten? Those first grade teachers need to look at that and plan accordingly.
And so do you think you will, as an admin team, what will you think you will lose in giving up those teacher and service days later on in the year? Are those been traditionally been really important for continuing your work? So how?
They have been, and there's always shifts and changes with the state, with new things that come out, so we access and utilize that. But also say, for example, if a new piece of software or something like that comes on that gives us a chance to really have one of those in-service, using it, now let's go to the next level. What I will say is right now, we still have those late arrivals that we have embedded in here. And so that will be a nice piece that will still be able, and it will look a little bit different because ultimately, depending on what the configuration looks like, but at least we have something embedded that we would be able to still work with.
And you may have answered this previously, but catch me up, is there any plans to do any follow-up surveying with families about their intentions about sending kids back?
That was something we also discussed yesterday in our meeting in the afternoon. We really want to see what the state guidance is going to be first, because we know there's a couple items that could be in that guidance that would dictate whether or not parents feel comfortable sending their kids back to school. So we really want to make sure we get accurate data when we get that feedback. And if we push that out now and then the state comes out with some things and parents change their minds, then we don't really have an accurate feedback to make decisions.
Certainly that information will be helpful for busing, for our food service or our classrooms, for sure.
But yeah, if we're gonna right size the district too, we
Yes.
kind of need that information for right sizing.
But I agree, we need more information because I think right now, the parents don't have all the information they need in order to really form a firm decision on that.
So if I understand this, this is just a decision now as to when the start date is.
For students.
But once we start, you haven't finalized the look of what that
Correct.
start's going to be.
That's correct. Yeah.
What was the official start date?
August 31st.
Previously, it was August 20th.
Correct. August 25th for kindergarten day would be the original. August 20th for
Right, so does kindergarten also move to August 31st?
We're that
she
should
said
be
we're still working
determined,
on
but
that.
by the 22nd, we'll have that figured out. I really like to spend more time with the nonprofit with Mr. Kinkrick and that team. But I do think there's some benefits, just what we spoke about, that are the first grade. One of the reasons that we have that delayed start is to help with the screening, but the other part about it is it provides the attention for our incoming students, both first grade that are now kindergartners that are now first graders. Those first couple of days, making sure we don't lose anybody and everybody makes their connections, and then we're able to give that attention to our kindergartners, so.
Any other comments? Anybody, thoughts? No? Well, that was quick.
That was, and I will plan to have that on our 22nd board, and I will inform you about what additional
Yeah, maybe put that in the
information.
Friday board update for the
Yes.
kindergarten decision, that'd be awesome.
Okay, I will do that, thank you. And that second discussion item is about new policies for screening, so I will let the board work with that if they like.
Oh, well, this is the first of two reads for the following proposed new amended district policies. Can I get a motion?
I don't think we need a motion.
We don't?
No, I think we
Just read, we need to read it out loud?
No.
Oh, okay,
we just need to discuss them.
okay, so
We have to have two reads.
Two
and then
reads, we've
vote.
already discussed it, so at the last meeting.
So this will be me. So the first one we have attached here is just a vacation and holiday schedule for support staff. This is for our classified staff members. And I've tried taking all of the things that we've discussed over the past few meetings
90 days.
and putting together a working policy for our vacations. And I don't know if you sort of take any time to read this and see what we have, but the big pullouts of this are, I have put in here that we would allow classified staff to carry over 10 days of vacation at the end of each fiscal year or calendar year. And this is because, you know, a lot of time is usually taken for vacation in the summer. And if you only allow 5 days, which have been previously discussed, then they only have 5 days to take during the summer. And so I felt that if we have 10 days, that'll allow them to have 2 weeks during the summer and then they're earning their time. And in the end, if we still limit the number of vacation days that would be carried over to 10 rather than say 60 that we've been discussing.
And that's more normal compared to what we're seeing when people come here, they apply for a job. Right, this kind of matches up with what the
Right, right.
marketplace,
And
what
this
we're seeing
also-
in the education industry.
This also increases, speeds up the time it takes to get to 3 weeks of vacation, 4 weeks of vacation. Nothing has changed in that in all of our conversations that we've had. It does go further and provides up to 3 years to allow staff members to reduce their carryover vacation from 60 down to the 10 days. And it includes allowing them to use additional vacation and also receive a payment of 10 days once a year for 3 years, get that vacation balance out. And then if there was an instance where a staff member were to leave before those 3 years, that 3-year period is up, we would pay out their vacation according to the statute in ORC, which looks at vacation used and earned over the past 3 years. And it would also add 10 days to that, to get that out. I mean, that's for the staff that we currently have on record working for the district. Anyone that's hired after July 1st, 2020, they would use the 10-day limit. And all of the classified staff members would earn vacation on a monthly basis, so they're earning it throughout the year and being able to use it. And we also updated the 10 holidays. There's been no change to those 10 holidays. It originally was 7, we've added 3 more. That's Good Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and 1 day during Christmas recess besides Christmas break. Sure.
For the benefit of the audience, the viewers, could you define support staff?
If they are non-teaching employees, they're not administrative or supervisory. An example of the supervisory positions would be the transportation supervisor or the maintenance supervisor.
Non-supervised.
No,
They are
they are not supervised, correct. They're just non-teaching employees.
non-supervisory, non-administrative.
Yeah.
And then when you say classified, are you using that interchangeably with support? What do you?
That, yes, it is. It is. I believe if you take away the administrators that have vacation and the 2 supervisory positions that we have, there's 33 or 32, I think we have 1 staff member. I think you're down to 5 administrators, 2 supervisors, and then 25 non-teaching personnel. So we're talking 32, 33 staff members at this. Well, 25, this policy affects those non-teaching employees. This does not affect the administrators. This does not be supervisory.
So around 25.
Yep. They give us a better guideline on of how to move forward. So that's any other questions on that policy there? The second policy is admission of students on a tuition basis. We discussed this previously at a prior board meeting, and it was indicated that we'd like to combine not having tuition students along with having tuition students to make it one policy that would eliminate the need to do an annual policy update had the different decision been made. And so Helen was able to put that together. I think that it now reads more along the way that we were trying to get this. So all we need to do now as a board is before
March 31st.
before March 31st, the board just needs to determine whether or not they will have tuition students next year. I believe the policy does include that if the board doesn't vote at all on it, it automatically just,
Stays as is.
well, I think it says there's no tuition.
Right,
So
which
it-
this is how it is now, as of yet.
It puts it on the board and the administration to make sure that we do this, which we do every year for open enrollment as well, so. Yep. And it also provides the guidelines on how we will review and determine the tuition students that will be accepted, if we do accept tuition students. So, any questions on this policy?
Hey, you and Helen did a great job on both of these, so thank you.
I give that to Helen, and
Yeah, great job. So there were a lot of phone calls back and forth, so.
so I believe that completes the first reads of those two policies. We'll have a second read on the June 22nd meeting, and we will also move forward with a vote to adopt those policies.
Okay, great. So that takes us to miscellaneous, and the next regular Board of Education meeting will take place virtually on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, beginning at 6 p.m. All
Does
right.
that mean we report or are we gonna be
Yeah.
online?
We report here.
We will report
Yep.
and it'll be the same format as
Yep,
tonight. Okay.
Exactly. We kind of did this as a trial run to see how this is going to go for everybody, and
Can I ask
Yes,
a question
ma'am.
about these
sure,
coming meetings?
go for it.
Don't like me for this one. Is there any reason why we can't explore having it like at the CPA at the high school? And, because that stage is big enough that we can distance up there and then, take every so many seats for the public to come and sit. So they can have an, in-person view of the meetings.
Two things.
Yeah.
Go ahead, someone else can speak. Oh, originally the idea for that was it was just harder to set the room up with all the equipment, because earlier,
Stage.
and yeah, anywhere other than the boardroom.
Mhm.
Because originally we're gonna have our work sessions at all the different buildings, Broadway, Nevin, LT Ball, et cetera. And even with that, when we agreed to do that, it was gonna be kind of iffy on making the videos work and all that type of thing.
Well, we
So
were
that-
only gonna do work sessions. because
Right. They're not
At that
recorded.
time, we didn't do the technology piece.
But we had talked about doing the board meetings, and the reason
they
was
said
it was
the
too, it didn't make a lot of, it's hard to hear, and there were just different issues that came up at that time. So I would say maybe that would be the same thing that would apply to the CPA.
Mhm.
Secondly, we don't really have a lot of people we usually have like 3 people, 4 or 5 people. It's always the same,
Mhm.
so, but I'm not, that's just one
Well,
person's
I'm not at
opinion.
all insensitive to the bigger issues that you have to prepare for to start the new school year. And so if it's a lot of, rigmarole to set
Right.
that up, I personally would rather see that time investiture and getting ready for opening the school doors. And,
Yeah,
I just, off the cuff, I was just wondering.
no, it's a fair question.
But I can see there could be a lot of setup involved to meet guidelines and.
And I think for a while, until they change it, even for a meeting like that, I think we're still up to a capacity of 10.
10,
So by the time we have us,
yeah.
and if you have a couple reporters, they're really, you would have just a rotation of one person if they wanted to speak or something of that nature. So this means does provide more people to actually be able to see it, particularly with live streaming, it actually happening at the time.
Well, how can we do school then if we're only allowed to have 10?
Well,
Hopefully that's gonna change.
right, and maybe by July 1st, it will change.
Yeah.
There's, so, there, Yes, there are a lot of stipulations and things that we have to work through.
And a couple
Right.
zeros after the.
Yes, yes. So there are different regulations for different activities, as we know presently. And so I think it's hard for the general public and everybody to kind of wrap their head
Yeah.
around that, what applies and what doesn't apply. But that would just be another factor that we would definitely want to weigh in. I do think possibly with this new setup, so that we're able to see it and still be able to connect, but also have our community connect with us. I understand what you're saying. It is better face to face.
Absolutely.
And I think we all prefer that. We're just
That's one of those situations where you're supposed to limit to 10.
right now.
Maybe by the July
For
meeting
now.
now.
Yes, for
It might
now,
change by July.
through the 22nd still, I mean, through the 31st, but yes.
So for the weight training and band and camp or what?
Right, so we submit that to the health department and essentially they do groups of 9 and one person that is like, when I say a coach assistant or whatever. I mean, they have, it is orchestrated.
Staggered,
Yeah, and they
Staggered.
utilize the outside. And so then as they move inside, it's almost having like a station. Only 9 and 1 can be in a particular area,
Mhm.
even for restrooms. So there's a plan that we submit to the health department and then they help to see if they feel like we are doing this in a safe manner.
And then an open field area, like it's still a grouping of
Right
9
now,
and 1.
so for our,
Can you have pods out there of 9 and 1 and
yes,
then
eventually,
open
yes,
space? Okay.
they right now are looking that they do not want instrumentation that's not like a percussion. They don't want instruments that are blowing, yeah. Mhm.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
So we have a date that potentially of looking at, that would be, they can do training, just like in formation, and we can have rhythmic instruments that are not super emitters, is what the term that they use. And they could we're planning to work that through and do that to and then prepare and see if we have new guidelines by August 1st.
This is just so huge. I mean, my hat's off to, I don't know how educators are getting through it, but I mean, because then
There's a hole forming in my desk.
because, logically, I'm listening to this and it's like playing out in my mind, okay, so they do their rhythmic things, they do their forming. And then where's the end point where are they even gonna be able to compete? Is there even gonna be a football game? Is there gonna be, everything is so tenuous.
Yeah, it is.
Everything's in flux.
Mr. Beerhoff, and you can share, he was talking about, just for summer, about swimming, about how they're doing it in the competition, but they don't really do the competition with other people. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, swimming is a great example, like that's just
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so my son's doing swim team this summer and they're doing virtual meets. And they have to limit who's in lanes and stuff like that for practice. And
It's not the same.
so, yeah, we're hopeful that we get some guidance here soon that changes some of this and we can start planning for what school's gonna look like in the fall. But to think that it's gonna be the traditional setting, I think is wishful thinking.
Yeah, because to your point, in football games, how do you have a football game? You can't have a football game if it's
Well,
9 and 1.
and typically the band performs in the Mum Festival,
Right.
where we're not
There's no
having a
Mum
Mum
Festival,
Festival.
yeah.
So I mean, I don't mean to be a downer here, but it's like, where does this all take us eventually? What are we?
The most boring year ever.
I think it takes us to Crazy Town. I think we're all at Crazy Town right now.
But yet I'll say my hat's off to a group that has figured out, even though it's virtual, he was talking about how excited his son is to go and do this,
Because they
and-
need an outlet, they just.
Right,
they
right,
need
so
an
they
outlet.
still, yeah. So we just have to be creative, look for ways and really be, persevere through it,
That's true.
and make the
just
most
want
of it, but
I
yeah.
hope the public grasps more and more, because one thing also is just keeping your motivation up.
Mhm.
When you don't know what your end goal is or what you're striving for. So I really applaud you guys for hanging in there and keep plugging along and staying enthusiastic. Flexibility and it's not ideal, so.
It's rough.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. I'm just like, okay, where do I go from here now?
I know, I just got all sad, thinking
I
about
know.
the fall,
I
and
was
no
like,
mom's festival,
oh.
and no football.
Way to get us jazzed up for executive session, Nancy Ford.
Oh, we just stay tuned, see what our next
Yeah.
directive is, and then we'll find a way.
I'm
Yeah.
back happy now.
We didn't cheers. Yeah. So are there any other comments before I go to the next? Okay, all right. So at this time, the board is going to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1 to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee or official, and to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or official. Do I need to read all A, B, C, D, and E?
No,
Dave?
you're good. That's what we needed right there.
Okay, great. And the board does not anticipate any action, and we will be inviting Dave Stevens and Helen Carroll into executive session with us.
I'll move.
Can I get a second? Moved and seconded by Corinne Dahl and Ann Zakor.
Mrs. Dahl,
Yes.
Zakor,
yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
okay, so we'll take a few minutes and then. Yeah, we'll get back in, okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Helen, we'll get back on with you.
Okay, and Dave was going to send me a second link, which I don't think I received.
We'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe-
Okay, thanks, bye.
Thank you.
I didn't
should
want to
never
make
skip
this
the
seem
agenda.
that it's just
It's
like,
such a meeting.
I would
Go ahead,
like
just
to,
announce that.
and you can dismiss me if you need to, wait.
So the board is also going to invite Dr. Compton to the executive session. So we're going to amend the motion. So can I get a,
I will.
Well, that's,
Oh.
the motion is to go in, but.
oh, we're just going to add, okay.
announce who-
So we're just going to, and we're, yeah, so the board would like to also invite Dr. Compton to executive session.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I have to call her first.
I have to look at my schedule on public employment.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll let you know.
All right, we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna declare us back in. Okay, I'm gonna declare us back. This happens every time. Remember that one time it was really bad?
It's so funny, it's like a laugh.
It's not funny, it's
Can't
awful.
delay.
It's like a sitcom.
Well, I knew it the first time to do it.
Remember that happened that one time?
Oh, that was awful. I could not
Hey, I
find
did
the
it at the time, don't I?
Yeah,
Okay,
So-
what is it? My watch.
You recovered really good though, Dave. You're quick on the recovery.
You just
Okay.
give us a shout when you're ready.
so what time, we're gonna go.
So I'm gonna declare us back in regular session. It's 9:23. And can I get a motion to? What? Motion to adjourn. Oh, it's been so long since I've done that.
I'll motion.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and second by Corinne Dahl and Ann Zakor. My goodness.
Oh, Zakor, okay. Dahl,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Oh, mercy.
Okay, board meeting at adjourned at 9:24.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We made it.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Yeah, me too.
Stay healthy, stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Camera. Yay.